record to this computer. Okay. So we all know it's recording. All right. All right, we're gonna get going then, because we've got a lot to cover. Um, Good morning, everybody. I'm gonna make what we've all met before. I'm gonna make one introduction because you haven't seen Claire yet. Um, Claire is the newest member of P1. She and her husband bought Barry and Lynn's house. And it turns out Claire has a past life where she is a kitchen remodeling and among other things, expert, and has been very gracious with her time and giving us some advice. So she's going to listen in and will may well have some good comments. And she's been very kind to me because she spent time with me to kind of think things through. So again, Claire, thank you. We really appreciate it. I'm going to start off today with a brief review of where we are. I'll start sharing my screen in this process. Good. And where we're going. So we've already completed round one review, and the design team, Matt, Mac, and myself, among others, Claire's help too, have done a review of that. You've received, I apologize how long it took, but it's just been turned out to be a lot. A overview of the issues that came out of round one and the responses, some of which we're not going to talk about today, and some of which we will. Round two takes place today. What's critical, and I'll remind everybody, and Mac, please help me remember also at the end of this meeting, we'd like all final comments from Ponderosa owners no later than Sunday night. We did the same thing with Juniper, and it worked out well. We'll then take those and give the responses, and I don't have a date on that yet. Keep in mind the SRT will has a long list. You got a very small version of SRT all model issues, and so that's going to be ongoing, and many of you are on the SRT. And then there will likely be some single subjects that require member feedback. We probably won't do all hands meetings for those. We can do that via email presentations and polling. So don't think that there's nothing else is going to happen. Um, it will as it becomes necessary. So uh, Mac will do, actually, he and I, but the note taking on this, and it is being recorded. The first thing, and I broke this out separately from the documents you got last night, was a decision on the exterior entrance to the basement. Ultimately, was beyond the scope of our review, mainly because it required structural redesign. I'd also add it would be a very expensive change. No further action do we plan on taking of that. The reason I'm breaking that out is you're going to, in a minute, it has a potential effect for individuals on the the number of kitchen designs that Matt has magically come up with. Um, and everybody just needs to keep that in the back of their mind that if you're going to do an ADU, how do you plan on accessing the ADU? So let's do this then. We're going to go on a number of views of the kitchen. The first purpose here is to show on the left, you'll see the original entry and stairway that had and contemplated the possibility of adding a wall. And if you can see my cursor, I hope you can, there's the dotted line of where a wall could be put in the future. So if someone lived downstairs, a renter, for example, they could come in the front door, and you might have a door here, and then they could go downstairs, and that would be essentially private except for the mudroom, and you can maintain two entrances that way. There was no interest in round one that I recorded in that, and so Matt went away and did some really clever stuff that we'll see what everybody thinks. That's version 4 on the right, revised entry and stairway. Uh, What's been done here is now you walk in and you can see all the way to this back wall, which before you would have seen a half wall here with the stairs. And Matt was able to move the stairs uh, to the left by there's a landing halfway up, so that now becomes a stair there, and then also to add some stairs upstairs. And this turned out to provide a great deal more area in the kitchen to build a pretty daggone big island. Um, it's not the only version, but it's one version. Um, I'm going to let that
That
sink
looks
in for just a second.
that looks awesome.
Yeah. So we want to hear that, but I'm going to poll in a minute and let people know so we can hear each person. But it was very clever. So yeah, kind of my response when I saw it. So all right. So Jeff, I'm going to pause briefly and see if there's any questions up to this point. Okay. The other thing you're going to see here is I'm going to talk about the stove for a minute, and I got to move that. So you're going to see the stove in the two possible locations. There's the island on the left, and then there's the and it's the I'm just going to say exterior wall because whether it's north or south will depend on where this house is located, what side of the street. We have found out a few things since we have done since we've talked to you last. A lot of it has to do with the ventilation. Engineers, well, and also Claire's had some pretty good insight into this. It's not just smell; it's heat. So you really want to ventilate to the outside. Our engineers have asked and suggested that it would be best to do that against that wall. It also gives us more efficiency because we have the ability to put a microwave above it. I'm going to show pictures of this in a minute. Um, it also would likely be a little cheaper doing it there because of where you got to run the wires. You're going to have to add a hood from the ceiling. I'll show you a picture of that in a second too. So you're going to see the stove on that side, and it looks like that was going to work overall better. And then the final thing is this was for efficiency of the kitchen. This came out of the Juniper, to be honest with you. Uh, it works very well in that location. So before I go on, yeah, before we do that, I'm going to jump ahead just real quick. So there's just an example, the two examples of the microwaves. The one on the right is a non-standard cabinet. It comes out 2 inches. That does cause hinge problems. And the one on the left is a standard kitchen, so you get an idea where the microwave is. Vents are built into both of these microwaves, and they exhaust to the outside. Do that now. And I'm going to jump to this because I want you to be able to see the pictures. The island one, we were pretty much forced to do this. That adds cost, and it also affects the view, which I'll show in a minute. And you've got two there. So I'm going to go to what Matt has asked. These are all done by Matt. So they're different versions, and we're going to talk about island versus U-shaped or whatever as we go along. But what I really wanted to show folks here is uh, the stove at this location, you're going to have to do the hood, and here it's kind of incorporated in. And you saw the pictures. This is not probably how we would do microwaves as far as that goes. And I'm going to quickly give a quick view again. So, and now you get a view of here, here. Now, one nice thing about this is if this stove is the oven is open, it's very easy for people to stand on both sides, extract what they want to extract, uh, and be safe at the same time. It could be moved to the right on this one, which we'll cover in a minute. It's just not quite as much room. So now we're going to go backwards. All right. Does anybody have any questions on the revised entryway? Alex,
Ar-
anything?
Archie,
Alexia? Yeah.
Archie, just one comment that the wall on the right, regardless of whether your house is on the east side of the pathway or the west side, that will always be the south wall.
Oh, Yeah, that's right. Because they're mirror images. Yeah,
Yeah,
my mistake. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. East
So
and west changes, but north and south stay the same.
right.
So one quick question, which I think I know the answer to, but on design four, I mean, we're not planning to wall off the ADU, but if you were to wall it off, it looks like then you would only have one entryway into the kitchen. Is that correct? That'd only be
Which version? Version four?
version four, yeah.
Yeah. So
Is that
Well,
right?
let me jump
go
in.
ahead, Matt.
So originally, where Archie showed, it would probably be a solid wall, and you would have the single entrance in. That was version 3. In version 4, and we'll get to this in a little more detail, I think, in terms of kind of sense of separation or amount of separation you have from the interior and the kitchen. But the version 4 is showing a half wall there, a column there, which may or may not need to be there structurally. But in my mind, you could actually build right behind where the door is open 90 degrees. You could put in potentially a door there as well, across there. You're going to have some potential door conflict things, but in my mind, if I was going to close that off, I would put in probably a interior French door with a glass panel in it, and then you could potentially have screens, in the glass so that it would allow daylight but could provide privacy, and it would swing back against where it's showing the half wall, which would become a solid wall, and then you could have another door, probably a pocket door if needed, between the kitchen and the entryway. So the point there is it's customizable, it's much tighter, but you could end up with a kind of enclosed hallway by putting in 2 doors in effect.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
it does. Yeah. And again, we're not planning to do that now, but I was just kind of curious because it looks like it does change the entryway. So I was curious what you're thinking was.
Right, right. It is a trade-off, but as you can see, if the kitchen has a lot of extra space, which is very desirable. So, I wanted to provide for that, but still allow the opportunity to be able to create some privacy if people needed it for the ADU.
I think
Quite
that's great.
quite a different view if you did that because here you would just be seeing the wall. Here you got to well here again if you put the wall in you're not going to see any of it. It's not going to matter. But as it sits now, you have a real expansive view when you come in.
Right. And we'll see in a couple of different views kind of the sense. There's 2 things I'd like you to concentrate on. One is kind of the sense of separation or delineation of the entryway. You can see the one on the right, version 4, the entryway is pretty well defined there. It's got a column, it's got a beam up above, it's got the half wall. There's some other variations on that, but it makes it feel like it is kind of its own element. And then there's the kitchen right next to it. You can see through, but both in version 3 and some of the other versions, you'll see you just kind of walk into the kitchen, and you can also modify the shape of the bar. The half wall can go away, that kind of thing. And there's other versions of the half wall that could also be a storage element, like a cabinet and things that Claire brought up. There are some great ideas for additional storage. But the sense of separation from the entry is one piece, and the sense of separation from the dining room into the kitchen is the other one. And we'll show with some of the visuals that Archie ran through, we've got a U-shaped kitchen with half wall type element. And, the sense of separation from the dining room into the kitchen and the visual connection of what you can see on the counters and all that kind of stuff varies quite a bit. So I think Archie has some of that queued up and we can review some of those elements.
Yeah. So do we want to do that before we get into 4 versus 5? I think we do. It would just be
Yeah, I mean, to me, that starts emphasizing those 2 elements. If
Yeah.
you do 4 versus 5, we'll be able to cover both of those.
oh
So you
so
can, yeah. So you can see top right with the half wall or some kind of storage there in the column. Just from the entryway, there's that kind of sense of separation. And over your head, you're going to have that, with the beam and things too. The lower center is the U-shaped version, but one of the main distinctions is the way the bar counter is handled there, so that it wraps around. So you have both some bar stools on the dining room side and also on the entrance side, so that it's that there was some some commentary request about, the 90-degree, being able to sit and crosstalk and things like that. But you can get an idea of the difference in feel there from the entrance, from those two pictures. So let's just see if there's any questions about that, or if that makes sense.
And I can't see anyone now, Max, so hopefully you can.
Okay, yeah, I don't see
Why is
any
Okay.
anybody.
So
All right,
then,
I want to make one quick comment.
Yeah.
This post is not something that has to be there. It was tended to be ornamental, but also a response to an early request to make this similar to P1 and rustic. So it could be. There is a beam that goes across that may be required to be there. The half wall would also have a wood finish, and we're going to show you some examples of those in just a second.
Okay, so you said so I'm assuming that beam is either made of or looks like it's made of wood, pine.
Yeah,
yeah,
I don't need
yeah,
to show you. Best thing to do is just to show you.
Yeah.
yeah. And
Okay.
we haven't finalized the engineering, but an example, the preliminary engineering, uh, they're using laminated lumber. But in phase one, we tried to use real lumber whenever we could. And real lumber usually needs shorter spans. So being able to put a post in, especially if it's an aesthetic element, helps with the engineering spans, and it also helps give us more of that, rough sawn or rough lumber kind of look. So that was one of the things I wanted to throw in and get some feedback if people like that or don't like that. You can always engineer longer spans with other types of beam materials if you want to get rid of the posts.
So these two examples on the bottom, number 2 and number 3, are just of islands, current islands, and they both have overhangs. They do not have half walls. The top two have half walls, but they're two different half walls. A little bit harder to see here, but you can still get a gist. This is the probably about a 6-inch half wall by the time you get done with everything, with a nice wood cap. This one's wider. And Claire has pointed out to us that what we could do here is make this basically a cabinet for like books or whatever you want to put there. So it would face out.
Right. And one of the things Claire mentioned about that in terms of standard size cabinets, which are typically 12 inches deep, is you could do a version where you tucked it underneath the bar so that the surface, you still had the counter surface, or you could make it taller like the two examples here, where it creates a bit of a separation. You could have more of the electrical outlets if need be on the back side, and a taller type cabinet for either with open shelves or doors, glass doors, whatever.
And also today, we really do not need a decision on the half wall. I do not believe, Matt, unless you're going to say you do, but I'm pretty sure we don't. The islands in general are super flexible, and how they will be laid out will be an SRT issue. We do need to know, are we going to build a U or an island or whatever the case may be? So some of these things you're seeing, we're not going to ask for decisions. We'd like to get some feedback. Do you like it? Not like it? But we still have options, plenty of opportunity to make those changes as we go through the process.
Archie,
go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Before you don't change that, just
I'm not.
So a couple things. One is on that lower right image, you can see how somebody, I don't know whose house that is, but it's one of the Model Cs. They, instead of just using that overhang, for, like with bar stools, like on the one on the lower left, they put a little bookshelf under there, which is exactly kind of what Claire was talking about. That if you don't want to use that as a bar, there's the potential to put cabinets or bookshelves or something under there. I mean, we'd probably do something built in versus what somebody did here, just impromptu, sticking a shelf under there. So that's one thing I just wanted to point out that you can see in those pictures. And then the other thing I wanted to say is that Joan has her hand raised with a question.
Go.
Matt, do you think the ceiling beam is going to be necessary?
Yes,
Okay.
I do. Now, and as a reminder, you've got 9-foot ceilings in this unit. and the current engineering has a foot deep type beam there. It crosses over with some of our mechanical issues. They're actually showing the beam up in the floor system, but my experience is that when you put it up in the floor system, that if you want to run ductwork or plumbing or electrical or things through the floor cavities, it gets trickier. So my initial guess is we may drop the beam, which means the bottom of the beam would be down at 8 feet, which is a regular ceiling height. So I kind of consider it a benefit to drop it down, create a little bit of sense of delineation, hopefully make it an aesthetic element, and also allow a little more flexibility as far as mechanical chases and stuff up in the floor.
So
But
I've
that's
got a similar
yet to be
question
finalized.
with
Okay.
that beam. Does it have to be exposed for structural purposes, or can it be incorporated into the floor above or the ceiling
Well,
above?
it does not have to be.
Okay.
It can be put in the floor above, but for instance, Archie, if we go with the ducted type system where we for heating, where we want to run ducts through the floor,
Yeah.
when you
Yeah.
put the beam, a solid beam all the way across, now you can't run ducts from one side
Right.
of the
That would
to
be
the
a
other.
super challenge. So
Right.
we don't know yet, but
Exactly.
okay.
We don't know yet.
Um, I want to get some quick feedback on that then. I'm going to go back to here so I can see people raise hands.
So can I ask one question? So Matt, are you saying that, I hear you saying the ceiling beam is necessary, but you're saying if we go with ducted HVAC system, that beam actually becomes part of the chase for the duct?
No, if we go ducted and if you push the beam up into the floor so that you don't see it, then it gets in the way of the ducts and you can't run them from side to
okay.
side of the building. If you
Okay, I
drop
get
it
it.
down, then you can run it through. So I showed it, or I'm currently thinking of having it dropped in order to allow for the ducting and anything else we want to run through the floors. If it turns out we go ductless, then there's the potential of pushing it up if everybody says, no, we don't want to see a beam, we want a flat ceiling.
Mac, are you looking at the chat as we go?
No,
Okay.
but I can.
Yeah, I see. I just saw a message. Will stepped out for a second. I know there he is. Give us your feedback on the exposed beams in the post, please.
I like them. I like them. Yeah.
Both?
Both, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, rustic is, I guess, a debatable word, but like, I think they look great. They look great in the homes that exist right now. I like the delineation. Yeah, I like them.
Okay. Alex?
I feel a little unsure about them. I think I'm a little more into the ceiling beam than I'm into the post, but I'm not, I'm kind of have mixed feelings about them. Having trouble.
Natalia? I'm sorry.
Yep, that's all.
Okay. Natalia?
I do like the ceiling beam, and I'm also unsure about the post, but I could be into it if it was like more minimal and scaled down. I think I like it like the rustic elements, but I think I see a little bit more of like a Spanish mission look in my head when I'm picturing my home. So similar, but a little different.
Noah? And Rejoice, since you're both there.
Yeah, I think the beam is fine for us. I think I also have sort of mixed feelings about the post, like the original diagrams, the schematic ones. I kind of didn't like it, but then seeing those reference pictures, I felt more okay with it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Eris. I'm sorry. Sorry, Rejoice.
yeah, yes, beam, iffy on the post.
This is interesting. Eris?
Right.
I'm with my partner on this. I like both the beam and the post. Yeah.
Joan, I'm going to give it a shot for us. If that's okay, you can just nod up and down because I know we got sound issues. We would be the same. Beam if it needs to be, particularly for the ducted if that becomes. We have lived in the houses and find the posts are constraining and make it feel smaller. And if we could not have the post, we would not have the post. All right, well, we're going to move on. Let's see. So where should we go next?
So Archie, can you spend a little more time on the version 5, the U shape, just so people can,
Yeah, we haven't even.
feedback.
How about I go ahead and do the comparison, and then we'll come back and do these because
Okay.
that would be here. So now you're seeing. We haven't got to this yet, so that's great introduction. Thank you. uh, version 4. This is version 4 versus version 5. And what you've got is the redone entryway, and you've got an island versus the U. And the U is kind of unique because it kind of offers you best of both worlds. I'll show you a picture in a minute where you've got a half cap wall, which kind of hides part of the kitchen. Yet you've also got the flat bar. So people, if they want to sit or however we want to do it, if you want to put cabinets there, you can. Um, so Matt, why don't you go ahead and do you want me to go to the pictures of it or the drawings?
Yeah, I think for people to visualize. So I think in the floor plan here, you can see the basic traffic pattern.
Can I make one point on the floor pan? Those
Yeah,
grids, folks, are a foot on the side. So if you
yeah,
want to use it for sizing, you can do it just by counting the foots. They're 1 foot grids.
right. So you could see there's the basic difference in terms of the double traffic pattern versus the single. In the U shape, the bars pulled back in a little bit, so the entrance is a little bit larger, and we also have that wraparound seating area. So that's kind of the traffic pattern type elements. I think one of the biggest pieces, of course, has to do with the visual connections. We talked about the entryway, and this was the picture we looked at earlier. Archie, do you have a comparison from the dining room?
Yeah, I'm
You
trying. I apologize. I'm having enormous. I'm going to have to do it this way. I'm sorry.
Okay. So, as you might imagine, in terms of sitting in the dining room, and
Okay.
that picture
That's what you want.
that's a good start. So, if you're in the dining room, you can look into in the upper right, I think, is the expanded version. So you can look in. You're looking at your stovetop. You're looking into that space. You can imagine if, and Claire might want to jump in here, but she did a great job with the juniper of basically talking about your lifestyle in terms of how you like to entertain. If you have people over, is it interactive? Are they helping to cook? Is it informal? Are you a fairly clean type crew in terms of managing dishes and pots and all that kind of stuff? So your counters are relatively clear, or do you not care if people see that? Or do you like a little more separation, a little more formal? Maybe you have things made, you want people to sit down. Like the lower picture, you can see that half wall element really blocks the view of the cooking area all the way around the stove, etc. It also allows more separation if you have small appliances or other stuff sitting out on your countertop. So there's traffic pattern issues, but the view of top left and, well, actually all of these are good. Top right and middle bottom are kind of the number 4 and number 5 versions in terms of the visual separation. So I'd really love to get some feedback on people's lifestyles, how they like to cook. I invite Claire to jump in if she has additional comments, and then get feedback on that sense of separation and what people's preferences are.
Just for management purposes, Mike, I can't see people at all.
Yeah.
Claire,
I
would you mind going first, and then Mike call upon people so we can get feedback from everybody?
Okay, so the only thing, they all could work fine. It's an individual thing, but I just wanted to point out that the idea of a half wall on from sitting in the dining room looking into the kitchen, the idea of a half wall separation, be it a 2x4 wall or be it cabinetry or something of that sort, could happen with either the island or the U. It just would not be as long. For example, if you look at that picture at the top right, that has the counters to the left of the stove and the counter on the island are all flat. But there would be no reason that you could not, if you wanted, make a half wall at the end of the left end of that cabinet to the left of the stove, where the cursor is, bring it round to the blue dot right there. That could be a raised area too. It doesn't shield it as much, the view of the kitchen, as much as if the peninsula came the whole way across, but it does shield it a certain amount. And similarly, the whole back of the island could be raised either as simply a wall, as a seating area, or as extra storage. All of those options are available in either case. So that I just wanted to make out
If there was interest, if there was interest in seeing what this looks like, Claire did a drawing for us, and I can bring it up quickly.
That was
but I
not a
would,
professional drawing. That was a
yeah,
sketch.
this is sketch, but it does give you
Okay.
an idea of what it would be.
Okay.
I would suggest we hear from folks first.
I think so. That's a good plan.
Okay, Mac, do you mind drawing us through the group and let's get some comments? What we really would like to know is, again, you've seen different versions of the U versus the island. We'd like that comment. And then this version 5, if you have any comments on, it's kind of a hybrid of half wall and, or yeah, raised and then lowered. We'd like to hear your comments on that.
I I personally like the traffic pattern on version 4 better. I thought I wouldn't care about the view lines, but I can see like, seeing the stovetop and all that. Now looking at it with these awesome drawings, I can see that the view line thing is like something that's worth thinking about. So Claire's observation that even on version 4, you could kick up a little baby wall to do some view line stuff. Like maybe that could help resolve that. I think between the two, I don't know if we're at this point yet. Between the two, I tend to lean towards 4 because I think the traffic pattern is the more important thing.
Thank you.
Archie, do you want me to just call on people one at a time?
Yeah, I can't see who's raising or anything.
I'll go ahead and go. I agree with Will as well. I like the flow of the more open traffic pattern. I'm not sure that in the idea of putting another cabinet that's solid at the end of the cabinet stretch with the stove. I think the only people that might shield it from are ones sitting at the end of the dining table. I think if you're sitting at the other end of the dining table, you're still going to see all that stuff. So I'm not sure it does a whole lot for you, but Claire could let me know if that's not correct. Yeah, that's my input.
Thank you.
I can go next.
Please do. Mac, go ahead and call if you can. I would do it, but I'm not seeing people, so.
Okay.
So yeah, I really like version 4. I think the flow is nice. I don't think I would change anything, honestly. I would just take it as it is. And I think with kitchen mess, I might be tempted to like put a couple of plants strategically or something. And honestly, I don't think I would want to do anything more complicated than that personally. I think that would solve it for me. But yeah, version 4 looks great. Thank you so much, Matt.
You're welcome.
Okay. Alex, do you want to chime in?
Yeah, I agree most with Natalia. I feel like I like version 4. I feel like it's a big improvement on what we saw last time. And yeah, I'm really glad that we have that design in here now. And that's one that I like the best. So I'll leave it at that.
Great. Thank you. And Noah and Rejoice.
Yeah, I think I agree with a lot of what's been said about the traffic flow. Like, I don't like the half walls between the dining room and kitchen. So, and I like having that openness with version 4. I'm actually kind of I feel like I'm wanting some sort of hybrid between 3 and 4 though. So, because I like the openness from the view I like the openness of the view from the door in version 3, but having the stove over on the wall makes sense. So like having the island, having it be a little bit bigger maybe than in 3, But having that openness kind of in both directions seems nice to me, just to throw a wrench in everything and not agree with a single design.
Okay, hang on a second. Because of what you just said. So the one thing I'd point out, it doesn't the vision. Matt actually should you correct me if I'm wrong, but as it sits now, except for the post, it isn't all that different from what you see because this corner has not changed.
Right.
Right,
That corner in
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I
the
think it's
front
mostly
door
about the
hasn't changed.
post.
Yeah.
What changed was the stairs,
Yes.
and the post is that is in your field of vision. But other than
Yeah.
that, you're pretty close.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So
I
I
think
think,
it's mostly the post.
yeah, the variables in there is we talked about the kind of post and beam and half wall elements or taller cabinets that would kind of create a sense of separation at the entry. I think what I'm hearing is if you wanted to open that up more, if the post was not there, if the half wall was not there, and if they made a cabinet version, it was tucked down under. So you could do a cabinet facing the entry, but tucked under the bar. All of those elements tend to open it up more. So
Yeah.
when you walk in, you don't have as much of sense of separation from the entry into the kitchen. So that's
Yeah.
some of the kind of fine tuning that Archie talked about with the island. When the island doesn't have any appliances in it, it makes it a more flexible element.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the nice things, and we'll have to get in with the SRT and our cabinet suppliers to see if people can customize those or whatever. But there's nothing really kind of constraining us from having some adjustments to affect the feel and function of that island element.
Yeah, that all
I'm
makes
gonna
sense
I'm
to
gonna
me.
throw in something there, and this is not something we need a decision on, but it is to let everybody know. Claire comes from another co-housing community, and I had not even thought of this, but as long as the floor is continuous, you don't even have to put the island in. And what happened there is a whole bunch of people ended up putting their own in after the fact, and they had what looked like different kitchens when in fact they were the same. We're not proposing that, but I'm just saying you have a huge amount of options that could be done, and we can talk through later. We don't have to make that decision now. It just didn't even dawn on me. You may not even have it at all if that's the way you want it and you plan to do something at a later date. Who was up next?
I think Rejoice.
Rejoice, I don't think we've heard from.
Um, yeah, I like version 4. I do like the idea of maybe not an elevated half wall, but some open bookshelves for cookbooks at the end of that island where the end of the counter.
So, like right on number 4 here, they actually have some ductwork in there, but that could be open. That could be open bookshelf.
Yeah. Yeah,
Is
so
that what?
I'm talking about the end of the countertop going into the dining room. It's just where
So
Claire
yeah,
was
where,
saying.
where Claire was talking about on the up on
Oh,
the
right there.
upper
Yeah,
left.
I'm sorry,
exactly.
right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that would
Yeah,
be a
that could be
perfect
done
place
just
for,
as well.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Good. And then did Eris, it looks like she maybe headed out. So I think that's everybody. Did I miss anybody? Okay. All right. I think that's feedback from everybody.
Mike and Matt, I think we have the feedback we need on this. Do you feel like we need more?
I think for now, clearly the island is the winner. I think we've got some variable feedback in terms of the kind of sense of separation at the entry and the details of the island and or some of the possible cabinetry storage type elements. Like you said, I think that can be fine tuned. I guess as far as proceeding with the structural engineering, I will look into not having to have that post in that location so that we can leave that part open, and then we'll see what other elements bear on that in terms of its sizing and things. But I think that gives us our basic shape and some flexibility to move forward. And it seems like a pretty darn close to a consensus, which is the way co-housers like it. So that's great feedback. I appreciate it.
Could not get a better summary. I would suggest that we do, because we've got other stuff we need to cover, that we do a final run through everybody on any last comments on the kitchen. And if you have no comments, that's fine. But I want to make sure everyone, if there's any other thing that we've skipped over, that we cover. If there's no objections, I'm going to start with Joan, and I'll do my best to remember. Again, I can't see folks. I'm also happy to go to any picture somebody needs.
Archer, are you guys gonna now move into some details in the kitchen, or are we done with the kitchen?
This would pretty much be done with the kitchen.
Okay. Could I ask one question then? It's a quick one. I think that it's to Matt. Matt, I think the way you design this is the cabinets go all the way to the ceiling. Is that correct? So the chase for the microwave venting, you wouldn't see the chase, right? Because the cabinets go all the way to the ceiling.
Well,
So
actually, Joan, I think we build down a soffit because we've got a 9-foot ceiling here, and standard even tall cabinets, 42-inch uppers, would go to 8 feet. So we probably would have a box soffit coming down, or leave it open if people wanted, to display up top. But
okay,
are you
so
talking
like
about
that picture on the left that Arch has there, it would be something like that.
It could be if people didn't want a soffit up top, if they wanted to display things on top of the cabinets. There, if we do 40-inch uppers or 42-inch uppers, there'd still be 12 inches up top there. And
how would you vent the microwave?
Well, I believe you can vent it straight through the wall.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And Joan, the one on the right, which is right behind your back where you're sitting, that's where we are right now. If you open those cabinets, it could vent straight through the wall to the outside.
Right. It probably has a soffit inside the cabinet.
Yes, it does.
Okay,
yes.
I gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Okay, let's do Rejoice. Yeah, and if you don't have any, that's fine. Just let us know.
I'm complete.
Yeah, I don't have
Noah.
any.
Okay,
No,
cool.
no more comments from me either.
Will.
No comment.
And I can't see if Eris is still with us or not.
No, I think
Eris had to duck out.
Okay. Natalia?
Yeah, I'm content.
Okay, who have I forgotten?
Alex.
Alex. Sorry, Alex. Okay.
Sorry, okay, sorry, I had to get unmuted on my
That's
phone.
what I was guessing.
I have connectivity problems. Quick question. Lighting is being decided in SRT phase, right? So if there's like decisions about where lighting's positioned, that's all SRT. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, then I have no comments. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll make a quick one on that. It was invaluable to me to get to hear Claire. I know the SRT is going to be looking into getting an expert on lighting too, because there's a lot to it. So we'll have more conversations about that as we go, but the experts make a difference. They really, I think they can keep us from making mistakes. Okay, so
All right.
great. I get to see everybody. Yay. Claire, do you have any final comments on this?
No, I just thank you very much. You look like a true co-housing group. Yeah, I've never seen, 11 years of living in co-housing, I've never seen a decision taken quite that quickly, and you guys are amazing. So just go for it, and I'll see you again at some point. And I'm gone now. Okay.
Claire, thank you. I look forward to
Thank you,
meeting you in
Claire.
person.
Thank you, Claire.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, let's move on to number 4. Now, we're going to ask for feedback for the next 5 items. And if you don't have any, again, you can say, I'm fine with it. And all of these have visual pictures, so it gets even easier, except for one, which will be item number 5. And then we have 2 items that we're just going to present that come from prior request. And we think you should see them and we'll like them. So let me go to the laundry, second floor. Okay. All right. So, Natalia, I think this will be interesting for you. It occurred to us after the last meeting because you had said that you would like I believe, a top floor um, washer and dryer, and as we had indicated that, and we thought it would go across here into the walk-in closet. But you said, that might be too noisy. I'm not sure I'm thrilled about that. And it dawned on us that, well, you know what? You could do it right here. Potentially, there is a mechanical issue, which we're not going to deal with now, that could change this, but for the time being, it doesn't. And you could create a space out of the walk-in closet, not change anything about the walk-in closet other than that space. Door would stay where it is. Uh, and you would have room for a stacked washer dryer upstairs. And there's another thing I'll add to that, but well, not I should do it all at once. And then also, Matt came up with the idea of this closet was quite long with double doors. So it had kind of an area back here that you had to come in and go to. And it dawned on him that if he moved the door to the bedroom up to this location, and then he could take and create another linen closet here. What that does for you, and I'm sorry I don't have a picture of this, I should have thought of that. You could eliminate this linen closet and open up the stairs completely. And I believe phase one stairs are open. Is that correct, Mac?
Well, in the Model D, they are at my house.
Okay. We might want to get some pictures of that, but that really appealed to us. I know, no other reason, because you got a nice bright window here. Okay, so that was three things you see in this picture: the possibility of doing a stacked washer on the top floor with a linen closet right by. The linen closet would be slightly smaller. Matt, I think it's slightly deeper, but not as wide. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, and then you could keep this if that's what the consensus is, or we could get rid of it and allow the whole stairs to be open. I don't know if that could be an option. That's something that would have to be discussed. You know, if some wanted to do it and some didn't. I'm a little apprehensive about that, but don't know. So what I'd like to do again is go through folks one by one and get some opinions and feedback. Alex?
I think I like that design for the stacked washer dryer. That's opening out to the hallway. I think that does solve that problem, and I like that idea.
Opening up the linen closet or not having this?
Sorry, opening that up. Sorry, I missed that one. Sorry, I'm having connectivity problems, so I missed part of what you said. But
that's okay.
Yeah.
So you could eliminate the linen closet because you would have it here, which would take a little bit from your bedroom closet.
I'll pass. I don't know how I feel about that.
That's fine. And, and remember, everybody gets a chance to.
Yep.
We got a couple days after you look at it. Rejoice.
I like the open stairs and the stacked washer and dryer.
Noah?
Yeah, same.
Natalia?
I love that spot for the washer and dryer. And I am a little unsure about downsizing a linen closet, but I think it could work if we have that new one with deeper shelving. I feel like deeper is better for linens anyways. And we could just maximize the vertical storage. So I'm open to that too.
Alex?
I already spoke, but I agree with what Natalia said.
Oh, okay. And remember, I still can't see folks. Who am I forgetting? We got everybody now?
This is Will. Yeah, I definitely want to open up the stairs, and the linen closet change seems good. I was never like all that interested in the stacked washer dryer. It seems fine. I guess I'm curious, are people thinking that they're going to have two washer dryers in the home, or they're going to not have one in the basement now?
We would not have one in the basement.
Okay. Then I would say, just to be easy, because I don't really care where it is all that much, or I haven't developed an opinion on it. So then I would say this design looks great.
Okay. Let me see if there's something I need to add to that. I'm going to tell you our concept is we would anticipate small units, because if we have large loads, we're going to take it over to the common house. And we also anticipate a heat pump dryer. That might be controversial for some. We've had some experience with it, but I'm just throwing that out there as they're extremely efficient. They are very efficient. And I did forget the most important person to me, Joan. What is your feedback?
Yeah, I like everything I see here, and I really actually like the open stairway because I think you're going to bring a lot of really nice natural light across the stairway to the landing upstairs through that window, which I've seen the P1 homes that are just sort of this long hallway without any natural light, and they're quite dark. So I like that.
All right.
Archie, quick question for you. You mentioned a small washer dryer. Is it that cabinet, well, that space would have space for a full size washer and dryer? Is that correct?
Yeah, I think it would
Okay.
have the way Matt did that. Matt will weigh in here. That was a standard size stacked washer and dryer.
Okay.
I
That's
believe
correct.
there's even okay, thank you. And I believe we did some research. There's even room for one down in the first floor, but it would be small.
Okay.
And we're not going to address that today because it's really just a hookup issue. But yes, so we know that is standard. Good question. Thank you. I think we got that. Can we move on to the next one?
Did everybody get a chance to speak? I lost track.
I think we did.
Okay.
Yeah, we did. We did. Okay. Okay, let's see if I can get this. That's that upstairs hall bathroom. Okay. Okay, so there are two things going on here, and we're going to handle them sequentially. All we're doing, yeah, no, yeah. So right now, all we're doing, this is the first floor. You might remember the display. The linen closet that we did upstairs, the additional one, we also did down here. This is technically big enough for I believe, for a small stacked washer and dryer, which could become important later if you ever had to stay on the first floor. But it's not going to be for standard size. That much I'm sure of. And the only point was before this was a open space that you had built in drawers space. And I'm going to take a chance here and I'm going to go into the second item and we'll comment on both at the same time. The other thing you're seeing here is we wanted to add a window to this bathroom. And in order to do that, we needed to change the orientation of the shower because if it turns out to be an insert, you really can't cut into those to put windows. We may do other options, but we didn't want to constrain the SRT. The P1 houses are designed in this fashion. Excuse me. So you walk in, you have your toilet, then to the side, you have your shower and your sink. And Matt's enabled us to have a little bit of counter space too for the sink. So what I want to do again is we'll go through every one. And if you could comment both on if this linen closet, additional linen closet is desirable. And then also if there are any issues with the bathroom. That's really not a review item because I think we all knew we needed or we wanted a window there. But if you could see if there's any issues, let us know. So we'll start with Joan.
Question on the closet, Matt. What's the size of the bedroom closet now then?
That's a double slider. It's a 6-foot opening, 2 3-foot panels.
Okay, okay. So that's still a pretty good sized closet.
Yeah, it's the standard. Actually, it's the standard kind of big as you can get. The largest
Yeah.
panels you can have is 3 feet, which is
Right.
great. You have them open, you have the most space.
Okay. Then I would say that, my feeling is having two linen closets. They're just flexible closets, which is always nice in a home, different closet availabilities to tuck things away that you need to store somewhere. So I was just concerned about the size of the closet because if you age in place and you did have to move down and that was now your master bedroom as you get older, how much room do you have for your clothes? But it's pretty decent. So yeah, I like it. Looks great.
Also,
And
the
Matt,
age in place would allow you to do the smaller washer dryer right here without going up and
Right.
down any stairs.
Exactly. So I like your plan, Matt. Thank you. You've done some great work in
Thank
doing
you.
this stuff. So good job.
I appreciate
Um,
it. I'm just going
I
to interject for a sec here, Archie, just to
yeah,
let you know,
sure.
as far as the realities, I'm working with the mechanical engineering, and we'll talk a little bit later about our heating cooling systems. But to the extent we end up with a ducted type system for heating and cooling, we may need some chases, some spaces in the wall systems that allow air to move vertically. And the likely place to hide those is going to be in these closets. So it may turn out, a closet or two may have to get a little shallower, a little bit smaller in order to fit something like that in. Just be aware that might happen.
And I would, just kind of a question, kind of a comment. We've talked about having, you could have laundry in the basement, laundry in the first floor, laundry in the second floor. That all adds cost, right? All that extra plumbing to make that possible. And we're not sure that we would want to, spend all that money to create all that flexibility. I mean, am I thinking about that right, Matt?
Basically, yes. I mean, we can come up with the kind of the standard plan, and then the option. So, for instance, you can build a closet. This is an example. You got two linen closets with nothing in them. The upper one, there was another larger closet, three by three, or a little bit bigger. So there's one part to frame out the actual closet. Then the next part is to provide, the water hookups and the drains and things, and that is an expense item. So I think SRT is going to need to take a look at whether, which one is standard. Do you put in one in the house? Do you put in one or two in the house? Or is it an option and the person gets to pick? That's something SRT is going to need to take a look at in terms of where the money gets spent in terms of those actual hookups.
Right. And just one thing I want to keep, front of everybody's mind with all this stuff is as we talk about all these various, doodads and possibilities, and it's very easy to say, yeah, I want that, yeah, I want that, yeah, I want that. But then we also know that money is an issue for everybody. And so to balance that, the SRT, forefront in what their work is going to be about is standardizing things on the one side of the scale to keep costs down, to keep, I can't tell you how many times I've heard, in all these co-housing conferences, the more complexity you add to the construction, the more costs go up by a lot, not just a little, by a lot. If those people can get in, if the carpenters and the builders can get in and just crank things out and they don't change from unit to unit, it is so much more efficient than if they've got to start making a whole bunch of changes. So that's on the one side of the scale. On the other side of the scale is we want to give home buyers, what they want, and that flexibility. And so we're going to try to balance those things. The SRT work, the design work that Matt's doing, all that work is going to be balancing those two things to give, lots of flexibility and choices on one side and to give low cost standardization on the other side. So I just want to keep that piece forefront in everybody's minds as we're talking about all these, amazing possibilities that exist here.
And so I'm going to, is okay, Mac, if I continue on then?
Yes, please.
Okay. So uh, almost everything we've talked about so far, I think everything, and I'm trying to run it through my head, there's structural issues and they would be standardized. Whether or not you would have hookups, yeah, that's not decided. Obviously, if we build the upstairs, it doesn't make sense to build the washer dryer area without the hookups. And take away space. So, but let me move on to this one with Alex.
I generally like the new design. I think it looks good. No other comments.
Natalia,
I agree.
Will,
I'm actually kind of conflicted about it. I there's plenty of good reasons to have extra storage on that main floor, and that could be used for all sorts of things that aren't necessarily linen. I think, I feel a little bit like it's shortchanging bedroom number one, because that's where that space is coming from, right? So I guess I'll register just to sort of I'm not quite sure opinion. I'll go with the herd, I guess.
Okay. Um, Noah.
I like the window in the bathroom for sure. So like the bathroom redesign looks great. Yeah, I mean, over like I don't have strong feelings one way or the other. I'm trying. We're looking at the old design and then this one and trying to kind of compare them directly. Yeah, I guess I don't have like super strong feelings one way or the other. I like Will's point about it kind of shortchanging that bedroom a little bit.
Uh, Rejoice.
Um, yes to the redesign of the bathroom, including the window. I do like um So I'm going to back up a little bit. I'm not super strong about the second story washer and dryer. I'm fine with that being in the basement if that's what it comes to. I do like the age in place possibility of a small washer dryer on the first floor. So whatever needs to happen with closets to make that a possibility.
And I think that I didn't forget anybody. Everybody weighed in there, Mac.
Um, I think so. Did Noah, did you comment? I'm sorry, I didn't get a
He
note on
did.
that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So my comment is identical to Rejoice's. All right, let's move on. Folks, this is the best meeting we've had, period. So, um, oh, okay. This is one that Matt definitely needs the feedback on because very structural. Um, Upstairs, hallway, upstairs, laundry, option. Okay. Uh, there is the possibility to put a large, so this is the top floor, bedroom office three, the walk-in closet's over here. And you're looking down into the den living room, the vaulted ceiling, and there is a possibility to put a good size window or opening looking down from the office into the vaulted ceiling below. The reason it's critical is that if we think we want that, even if we plan on doing it later, we have to build the header and frame the wall appropriately. Um, and Matt, which I'm going to like, he had some really interesting comments on ventilation with this that I'd never thought of. Matt, can you express your experience with that?
Well, yeah, one of the issues, of course, with a multi-story house is warm air rises and you get stratification. So this is a very tall vaulted ceiling. If you leave it closed off to the upper level, you'll just have a warm pocket of air. The mechanical guys may try to pull that down with a return, but one of the things I've experienced in designing solar homes is creating a convection loop in the house between the main level and the upper level. So the way that would work, if you had an opening here, and we could talk about different types. It could be a window, it could be shutters, it could be wide open, kind of depending on your privacy and control issues. But the warm air would rise in the living room. That's where it's naturally going to go, and you've got good solar gain, of course, coming from the whole south side there along your living dining area. When it goes up, when it rises, it goes up to that upper level. If you leave the door open between that upper bedroom and the stairs, the warm air rising is displacing the air from the upstairs, and it wants to come back down, be replaced down the stairwell. So you literally end up with this circular motion of warm air rising, going to the upper level, the cooler air dropping back down the staircase into the main level. And it does this round and around convection loop, which is a really wonderful non-mechanical way to distribute kind of temperatures in a space. So that's kind of the physics of how the airflow can work a bit better. Mechanically, oftentimes, and even our mechanical engineers are talking about potentially having separate heating systems for the upper level than they do for the main, in order to try to offset what typically happens, which is you get stratification stuck on those levels. So that's one piece. And then the other one is just the aesthetics of being in those rooms and having a visual connection between the levels. So you can look up and see, or look up, look down, whichever it is, just visually see between the rooms, share daylight, views, etc. The one probably downside is the acoustics. If you want that to be a private bedroom space, then connecting to the main level may be a problem. But so those are some of the factors. The main issue is, do we want the option? In which case, just structurally, we would put in a header there. And it could be the kind of thing that if there's enough interest and everybody says they want the opening, we could make it standard. Or we could say, hey, there's something in the wall. If you ever want to cut a hole here, you can do what you want.
So I would point out, and I'm sorry, there was not a rendering, or I would have put it in here, that your TV, for those who remember, for those that have TVs, this is likely the wall you would put it on. And the south windows were all over here, and right here was a sliding glass door out to what probably for most of us will someday be a patio or porch or whatever. If What I'd like to do is go through. If there are any questions, we can do that. If there are not any questions, there are two things, because Matt makes an interesting point, but it feeds exactly into what Mac just said. It would be great to say, yo, hey, build that into the wall for us. But if you're going to build a header, it's going to cost more. So if you know you're never going to use it, please say that. If you truly might use it, well, we need to know that too. Or if you, hey, I want it, then say that. But keep in mind, just building a header because it's nice, that's going to cost some money. It's probably not horrible, but they're going to have to take the time to frame it up and do the header. If there are no immediate questions, I'll start down the list. And I can't see Mac, so I'm assuming there are none. Joan, why don't you go first?
So
Archie,
actually,
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, so I think we're intending to use that room in the short to medium term to long term for our kids' bedroom. And so my question is, is there a way to build ventilation, kind of follow through some of those ideas, but also make sure the acoustics would be, not a problem for having our kids being in bed in that room and being downstairs in the living room, or is that going to be a problem if that space is opened up in any way?
I would guess for that situation, you'd probably want an internal window. So then it'd be something you could open or close, and it would be like inside versus outside in terms of a window.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then do you have any sense of what the additional cost would be to put that header in without actually, building that window or having that space be open? Like, do we have a sense of what that would look like?
I don't know exactly, but I don't think it would be a lot. They're putting in headers for windows throughout. So, I'm thinking it's maybe a couple $100 or something, but like Max said, you never know. Sometimes the complication and management of it is a lot more than the materials and labor. So, I would say not more than $500 and probably a couple $100.
I would envision that if we had enough interest, we'd just do headers for everybody. That's not something we would do as an option.
True.
Okay.
And Archie, I just want to mention, there is a rendering of the Ponderosa from the living room that kind of gives a little bit of an idea of what that window, where it would be.
It shows where it would be, but it doesn't show the window. That's why it chose not to use it.
Right. One other thing for people to visualize, if you're sitting in the living room like Archie was describing, looking at that wall, remember that is a two-story wall. So you're talking about something that's 17, 18 feet tall when you're looking at that wall. It's huge. So if you have a TV, it's on the lower section, So if you don't put something in, or even if you, whatever, as far as decorating that wall or whatever, you've got a huge, huge space to manage.
Right.
Okay, and I think I'm sorry.
Let me just check. Would it be helpful for people to see the picture of the inside of the Ponderosa living room, just to get an idea of where that window would be? Or
yeah, give a shot.
All right. Well, let me just share my screen real quick if I could, Archie.
Okay,
No.
hang on. Okay, it's all yours.
All right. All right. Can people see that?
I can.
Yep.
Yeah. All right.
So,
Yes.
so you
So
can see the slope kind of starting up there. You can't see the upper section where the actual opening would be, but if you follow that slope, like Archie's got his cursor on, you start getting an idea of how tall that wall might be.
right. So the window would be like up in there somewhere. Is that about right, Matt?
Yes.
Right above
Okay.
the TV. Well, not right above, but above the TV.
Right. Somewhere up in there. And so the view from down here would be pretty much of the ceiling of that bedroom. You wouldn't really see people's, you wouldn't see people in the room unless they were standing right at the windowsill looking over the edge.
Right.
Whoops. Okay.
All right, we'll go if it's okay, we'll do the poll we've been doing. Bear with me. Go back to optional window. Better. Okay. I think I said Joan, so let's just go ahead and oh, cool. I get to see people now again. Yay. Go ahead, Joan.
I don't foresee us using that option. I don't see us ever opening that up. So I don't need a header. If the whole group wants a header and it's not super expensive, then it's fine for us to have the header in there, but I don't really ever see us opening it up.
Thank you. I would second that. Will?
Yeah, I'm into it. I definitely want the option down the line, and I could see us putting that in. So, if we can stomach the cost, then I'm all for it.
I'm going to ask, this may be unfair, but when you say stomach the cost, what's a high cost for you? What's a low cost?
Yeah, that was dramatic language. I am not stressed out about the cost on this at all. It doesn't sound like it's going to be particularly bad. So, like, I don't have a number in mind, but like, I'm not stressed out about it.
Fair enough. And I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I'm just curious. Cost always means different things to different folks. So that's why I
Yeah,
ask.
yeah. I mean, I mean, they're already framing up the wall. We're just talking about framing it
Yeah.
differently with, whatever cripple studs, king stud, whatever, so it shouldn't be terrible. And I would rather preserve, for the upfront cost to have the option down the line.
And is your preference to go ahead and wall it in now and then just have that option later?
No, I would probably go ahead and open it up.
Okay.
I
All right.
think our use case for that is going to be an office, and I think that office is going to feel really incredible with that extra with that that's a big long closed in wall from the perspective of being
Yeah.
in that bedroom or that
Good
office
point.
space. So I think it's going to really feel open and really really cool. And
All right.
you mentioned that there's going to be you're going to see windows kind of you're going to go window to window. So if you're looking through that wall we're thinking about opening up, you're actually going to get another outside view across the living space.
You'd be looking down at it, but correct. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. If
Yep.
you had a desk right there, you'd be able to see down into your south facing yard.
Yep. Exactly right.
Okay. That's very helpful. Noah and Rejoice, what do you think?
Right.
Yes to opening it up.
And as build it that way.
Yeah.
Okay. Noah, same.
Yeah.
Okay. Alex, Natalia, sorry.
Yeah,
no.
You get that a lot, I'm sure.
Oh yeah. Go ahead, Alex.
yeah, I think I like the idea of having the option. I think, if we were going to do it, it'd probably be something like a window, not a big open space. And I think I'd want to know, I think open, definitely like the idea of having the option to do it. And so maybe paying the small amount for the header. I'd like to know what the price would be for actually putting a window in there before we made a decision about that part of it. But I think the option is great.
Yeah, I think we're hoping to have our kids share this room, and I think this will really sweeten the deal and leave other rooms for other possibilities. and I would really like the airflow explanation because I was actually kind of concerned about that with the vaulted ceilings. So I think we would use it a lot, and I would like it built in. And I'm a little bit more willing to invest in windows and the daylight that would bring. Um, so
And so I'm going to make sure I understand you both. Alex, I think I hear you saying frame it, but don't build it. And Natalia, I think I hear you say go ahead and build it.
I'm saying, yeah, I think, I think for us, the high end cost would be like if it's like 1,000 extra and up, then we might want to think about it again. But I think,
Okay. So
Yeah, and then I guess I think I'm also. It sounds like there might be different ideas for how to open up this space. So if you wanted to have it open as an office, it might be a little different than if it's a window. And so I guess it'd be helpful
true.
to understand what those options would be, and if there is going to be, is there one design or multiple design options for that? Because I don't think we'd want it to be a big open kind of hole. We need we need to be able to close it off somehow. So we need it to to be more of a window. Yeah.
Matt, what I think I hear is, yeah, you need to design the header, and we'll probably want to get it priced. We don't necessarily have to go into the window now, as long as we have the header. Wouldn't that then become an SRT thing, pricing it out?
Yeah, I think structurally figuring out the opening in the header is the base case. And
Yeah.
then SRT could look into what is it if it's, blocked in, what is it if it's completely open, and what is it if we put a window in. Those would probably be the kind of choices.
Mac, any comment to that?
Nope.
Okay, we're gonna move on. Thank you. That was interesting. Oh, okay. Master bedroom to the window. Here we go. So this is Matt kindly did some more drawings. You're looking kind of like you're in the center of your big king size bed, and off to your left is your south facing window. Oh, let me think about that again.
That's
Yeah,
correct.
that's correct. And straight ahead, that'll be either an east or a west facing window. And you'll see that it's slightly to the right of the room. Also, keep in mind, I think it's at a 5 foot height. The one to the west is a lower height, and that's a vaulted ceiling. The comment was made that it would be really nice to have that moved to the center of the room. You might be able to gaze out it from looking in bed or not. And I'm going to ask Matt, go ahead and give us some of the reasons why it was done this way, pros and cons.
Yeah, thanks. So the window on the left is the larger of the two in the master bedroom, and it is centered in that wall. So that's the base case. Then the one on the right-hand side, remember that your front porch roof is outside here, and you outside that window. So this is up above that porch roof. So one of the issues was to kind of keep it up above the porch roof. Another one was once again with the vault. So on the left-hand side of that picture of the slope, you've got an 8 foot high wall, and you're going up to probably a 12 foot high wall at the peak. So you've got, once again, volume that you're dealing with. So one idea was to raise that window up, kind of fill in that space, give you a higher type window for the daylighting and keep it up above the porch roof more, filling in that wall space so that it wouldn't just be blank up there. Another one is you can see that the amount of wall space that you have, if you want to set artwork, or if any of you want your big screen TV to watch movies in bed, whichever, the arrangement with an offset gives the ability to have a larger piece of wall. Let's see. And then the other thing, it's a little hard to visualize, but you have another window that size and that height. As soon as you walk through that door on the right into your master bedroom, you have another window that size on that outside wall. So there's two of them there, one in the bedroom and one in the bathroom, that are same size, same height in the current configuration. And one of the reasons I put them at that height is this is the front of your house. So the front of your house is looking out across the walkway at other houses. And so in terms of some of the privacy issues, if you're walking around between your bedroom, bathroom, etc., depending on what clothes you're wearing or not wearing, having a window that is up high so you can look out and see the sky and all that kind of stuff, but you're not necessarily looking out across the walkway at your neighbor's house looking back, that there's a factor there in terms of privacy. So various issues in terms of wall space, kind of fitting it in the overall volume with the vaulted configuration, privacy issues, things like that were the reason that I put it in that spot.
Mac, I know P1 has it more centered, I believe.
Well, I mean, all the models are different in phase one. In our house, I mean, the window is more centered and it is lower too. It's not the bottom of the window is not 5 feet. So
Can you
I mean,
speak to the advantages of that?
well, I mean, laying in bed, we get great views of the hillside and the rising sun, coming up over the hill. So I really like that. Now we're lucky that, we've got two houses. The houses are kind of offset. We don't have a house directly across from us. We've got one kind of to the right, one kind of the left. And the one on the right is a one-story house. So there's, we're looking right over that house. There's no privacy issues. The one on the left, they're far enough to the left that there's not a privacy issue there, but the potential does exist, if there's a house more directly across, that's two-story, of privacy issues. So I'm glad we've got the window like we have it in our house, which I think is probably about a 4 foot, I want to guess, height. But that just kind of, I guess we kind of got lucky with the neighborhood configuration in terms of
Well,
what.
that's going to be the same here. There will be houses that are in between, if I believe. We still have to work all that out, but I think that will happen here. Matt, just a real quick question: if it was moved to the center, I'm sorry, Mac, would you bring up the exterior front view? And we'll swap share in a minute, just so people can see what it is now with the rendering.
Yeah,
Matt, if he was to move it to the left, if we were to move it to the left, would it need to come down a little bit?
I think that was the idea,
Would it have to?
At some point it has to,
Yeah.
because of the headers and stuff like that above. You got to have the wall framed.
Okay.
I think they'll frame that rake wall and have a header above it. So yeah, I would guess that if it moves over, it would also come down somewhat. There's some constraints on the top structurally, and there's some constraints on the bottom in terms of the porch roof. So I'd have to look at the exact arrangement there.
Yeah.
Mac, are you able to bring that up?
I can. And just to frame the issue, we're basically talking about, should the window stay as it was pictured in those two photos that we just looked at, or should it move, to the left a little bit and possibly down if that's needed. Okay, so let me find front view of the Pondo right there. Share my screen. Oh, I got to go back to that one. Boom, boom. All right, so that should be showing for everybody now. So it's this window that we're talking about, potentially sliding it left, and down slightly, depending on the structural requirements.
All right. I'm going to take over the share again, and let's just go through everybody. Really, we just want to know your opinions. What do you think of either way? Okay. And let's see, optional window. Whoops, sorry, not wrong one. Okay, wrong one again. Where did it go? Upstairs. Upstairs. I lost it. So we're just going to stay where we are. I think everybody knows what the situation is after that description. Can we start and go through Rejoice and Noah? Would you give us your opinion? You want to keep the window where it is? Would you like to move it? What are your feelings?
I'd keep it where it is for the privacy reasons, for the kind of the symmetry and the way it looks from the exterior. I think it like having it down some would look kind of goofy. But mostly, yeah, just that privacy issue seems important. Oop, sorry, she said same, and I
Same.
muted her.
Okay. Will?
Yeah, again, I'm kind of torn. I would prefer to have a really nice view when I'm laying in bed. I don't care about having a TV. So centering it and bringing it closer into where, our sort of sight line from lying in bed would be kind of, a little lower would be fine. But, Noah makes a good point about the symmetry. And I don't have a good sort of body sense of what the privacy would look like there. It's like what part of my body is exposed when I walk through. How high up did y'all say that the window currently is?
Good question. So basically that window has a sill height of about 5 feet, and the top of the window is about 8 feet. So depending on your body height, if you're, 6 feet tall, whatever, you can stand and look out it without a problem when you're standing at it, but it's kind of, neck up.
And then if we budget over to the left and presumably down, I mean, my guess is that it's coming down a foot.
If we dropped it, it would typically you pick one or the other. So I've got those all set at 8 foot for top of window on the front wall, and the one over on the south wall is 6'8", which is kind of the height of a standard door. So if we moved it over in order for it to match up with something, we would probably drop it 16 inches. So then the top would be 6'8", and the bottom would be 4 foot, 3'8", right? Yeah, 3'8".
Yeah, I mean, I think, for people with breasts, for example, that might be low enough that they feel like they're exposed walking back and forth in front of that. So I don't know. Yeah, don't feel super strongly about it. I'd probably want to move it if I had my druthers, but I bet a lot of people would prefer the privacy is my sense, but I'll let other people weigh in.
Alex and Natalia.
So I guess my feeling is I'm pretty okay with where it is. I guess in my mind, the main reason to move it would be to better have a bigger window there, which we're not really talking about, but that would be kind of, I don't think that's an option. So if that's not an option, then I would leave it where it is.
Um, I think I'm okay with leaving it, but I would probably prefer to center it just aesthetically, because I'm going to be looking at that wall every single day, and I'm very rarely going to look at the outside of the house and care about the symmetry on that end. I'm just like, maybe every now and then I'll care, but every single day I'm going to wake up and look at that wall. So I think that I would like it to be centered, if possible, but also flexible, because I understand there's privacy things that people might not be comfortable with. So
Thank you. Joan.
I think I would probably opt for leaving it like it is. After staying in Scott and Julie's duplex and every night enjoying the evening rituals of Marcus and Carly's bathroom routine. And I have no idea what they were seeing, because they could look right down into our bed. It was a little uncomfortable. So, and Scott and Julie have no curtain on their window. So I would opt for privacy personally.
I should have talked to John beforehand. I'd move it. So it's not top of my list, but I'd move it. Maybe I'm more of an exhibitionist than I realized. But hey, good luck with this one, Matt.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
I think the consensus is more keep it, but that was kind of interesting. So we'll leave that one where it sits.
All right. Thanks for the feedback.
Maybe literally. Mac, did you have anything you want to add to that?
Nope.
Okay, so we're going to move on. No visuals for this one. Door heights, 7 feet or 8 feet. We have Matt, correct, 9 foot ceilings downstairs. So we have the option of 8 foot doors. Correct?
Yes, typically.
7 foot tip is the what we mostly see, not always, but mostly see. And the important part is we're not going to determine what door now. Matt has to know where to design the, tell him to put the headers and all that for the door. Can you tell us what the advantages or disadvantages of a 7 foot versus an 8 foot door, other than the fact if you're really, really tall, you want an 8 foot door, but
Uh, it's kind of a proportional thing to a certain extent. So, like as I mentioned, in the taller walls, you also can have taller windows. So your header height goes up. So it's fairly standard that you want to line up the tops of your doors with the tops of your windows somewhat closely. So when you look around a room, those elements and the space above your openings is relatively consistent. Now, there's variations on that, of course, but that's the basic rule of thumb if you have the space. So that's typically what you do. If you've got the taller ceilings, you go with taller windows, you go with taller doors. It's not much more complicated than that. It does cost more money for sure to do that. It does have the potential if doors are going to warp or whatever. The taller doors tend to do it if you get wood doors. So there are some issues with that. But anyway, that's the basic kind of logic. I should say that there may be situations, once again, with mechanical, if we have to drop ceilings for plenums and stuff like that, it may turn out that the doors will need to drop as well. So it's just kind of a general feeling of if, people would be willing to pay some extra for the extra height. And the other variation you may want to mention, I don't know if it's come up in the discussions yet, but the base case for the doors is probably going to be a hollow core type, painted door. And oftentimes there's an upgrade to go with a wood door. So some of it is like, where do you want to spend your money on the doors? If you wanted to spend it more on the finish and less on the size, you may want to do that, later through the SRT options process.
Mac, you have 7 foot doors right now, and you were, I was going to say you were hurt definitely that you didn't get the option to do this. So can you tell us why?
Yeah, well, and we've got 9 foot ceilings in the Model D, so it's the same as the Ponderosa. And until we started talking about this a couple of weeks ago, I didn't even know there was ever an option between 7 and 8 foot doors. My house came with 7 foot doors, and we never had this discussion 25 years ago that I remember. And I mean, I never ever thought, boy, I wish I had taller doors. They always look just fine. In my office here where I'm sitting, I got my 7 foot door, and then the one window has got the same height, like Matt mentioned. And I thought, oh, look at what Matt did. Yep, it's the same. But then on the window to my right here, it actually goes up another foot. So like he said, generally is the same header height, but this one he did raise it up to give me a bigger west window. So that was, that rule of thumb was violated in that regard. But in any case, we've got 7 foot doors on our first floor, and I never thought, I never thought there was any option. I never thought twice about it.
All right.
It just seemed like fine doors to me, and I would really be hard pressed to bump my head on the top of that door.
Alex and Natalia, would you give us your opinion on 7 versus 8? We have had a discussion about wood, and it would cost that would be an option. So we might want to think about cost as we do this. What do you think?
I would say I would probably just lean towards a solid wood door. So I would sacrifice a larger door for the 7 foot wood option because I think the wood door would be more important to me. Is that how you feel, Alex?
I feel like, I feel like the door height doesn't matter to me that much. And so I would go for probably the cheaper option here.
Noah and Rejoice.
Yeah, I'm in alignment with Natalia and Alex there. I think same basic reasoning.
Concur.
Joan.
I don't care about size of the door. I care about getting solid doors for sound privacy. So if I'm going to put my money in one or the other, it's going to be in the solid sound privacy door.
I concur with Joan. Will.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. The only sort of logical implication I wanted to ask about was, well, if you have 8 foot doors, does that mean that we then change window heights? Because I do care about having bigger windows if that's an option. I wasn't sure if that's an implication here.
Uh, on the main level, you've got, the 8 foot header height. So in general, this unit has taller windows than would be typical that like the other units that have 8 foot ceilings. The sill heights are similar. So let's take your living room as an example, where the sill height is about 3 feet, but instead of the top being 6'8", it's up to 8 feet. So your window height, your tall, the vertical dimension of your windows is like 5 feet tall. In the other units, it would only be 4 feet tall. So on your main level, you have taller windows standard.
We already have the bigger windows. Yeah, got it. So
Correct.
I'm good. Then I'm good.
Great.
All right. I think we got pretty clear consensus of 7 foot doors. The
Did we-
SRT will definitely be looking at upgrading the doors on that. And
And
when
let
I
me
say
just check-
upgrading, at least it's an option.
Let me just check. Rejoice, were you of the same opinion as Noah? I didn't catch. Yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay, so item number 9, I'm going to move on if there's no objections. Item number 9 was the revised toilet and tub arrangement to facilitate the window. I've already covered that, so I'm going to keep moving. We've commented on that, which gets us to item number 10, and we're going to make our in
Well,
time.
Archie,
Go ahead, Mac.
There's one more that Matt wanted feedback on. I'm not sure if this was in your list about the heat pump ducted versus
Yeah,
ductless.
I'm getting to it right now.
Oh, perfect. Thank you, sir.
The first thing he asked, though, was the revised basement ADU kitchen layout. And I've got a picture of that, but I'm going to ask a question, take a poll first. Not sure we need to do that now. Who is considering a finished basement option? Is anyone considering a finished basement option? Do we know? No, I'm not going to. And when I say by that, I mean it'll be built for you as part of this project, as opposed to you doing it later. Can
Natalia and Will?
Natalia and Alex, would you go first?
Will.
Yeah, we are considering it. I think we want to learn more about what the cost would be before we can make a decision about that, but we are considering it.
The cost,
I know the estimated cost from yeah.
Good. Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Will.
Yeah, I definitely am going to consider it when we get right up on the edge of the decision. I guess, I'll reconsider, but I've sort of proceeded financially so far, assuming that I will exercise that option.
Noah and Rejoice.
You want to go ahead?
What?
I think we're like, it feels like it's kind of on the edge for us financially, but we are interested in it. And so we're trying to we're going back and forth. I think we would like to have it built for us if possible, but we're not sure if it's possible.
Okay, and I'm going to speak for Joan and myself, if you don't mind, Joan. We will not do it. So, but that's enough people. We need to show you the picture. So, Matt, all yours.
Have you got a picture up?
It's up. Yep. Is everybody seeing the picture of the basement?
Nope, no picture.
I'm not seeing it.
All right, hang on. That's my fault. Am I not? Oh, I must not be sharing. Oh, bad me. Dang it. Okay, there we go. There you go. Is that, can you see it now?
There you go.
Okay, sorry.
Okay. So you remember the previous arrangement in terms of the ADU space. If you look at that rectangle that is the sitting, eating, cooking space, the kitchen element was in the upper right corner, and the window was closer to the front of the building towards the porch, and the sitting area was near the front by the porch too. So some different things have popped up. And I won't get into all the technical details, but it has to do with structural issues, how we build the basement floor and how that affects plumbing. It has to do with beam alignments, et cetera, et cetera. It also has to do with the heating design and where our heat pump needs to sit. So based on all that, I rearranged the ADU. The kitchen element is now near the front. The sink is over on that wall next to the laundry room where the plumbing is going to be closest. So we can run plumbing close to the existing or what we put in for the mechanical systems or the washer and dryer. That shortens things and simplifies it. The window has moved to the top of the screen. It's now kind of centered in that sitting area. Part of that is to create more space. You see the dotted rectangle outside. That's the recommended location for the heat pump, the exterior unit of the heat pump. And we're going to get to that in just a bit. But either whatever system we use for the heat pump, whether it's ducted or ductless, you're going to have this big mechanical component that sits outside that has some fans in it, has a condenser in it, makes some noise, not particularly pretty. And so the issue was we need to keep it on it's preferred on the south side so that it doesn't freeze up in the winter. We don't have big problems with that. But we want to keep it away from places like the front porch where you're likely to be sitting. So you want to keep it away from people as much as you can. And you keep it relatively close to the mechanical room. So that location is the preferred location for the mechanical engineers. That's where the window used to be when the living room was over where the kitchen was. So if I left it the way it was before, the heat pump would have to sit out next to the front porch. And I thought that could have some downsides in terms of the noise and aesthetic issues. So that was part of the generation of moving the windows. And when I moved the windows, I also thought, you know what, these windows are close enough. The standard window wells are literally side by side. So what would happen if we because last time we got the feedback, just about everybody wanted the expanded stepped tiered window well. What happens if we could combine those and kind of create an expanded outdoor space? Some people may do like Mac did and create a little greenhouse space or whatever, but that actually might be an interesting feature. So those are kind of the elements of plumbing, mechanical implications, window locations that kind of rearrange this design. So I'd be curious if you like this one better than the previous one. And I don't know if we have a quick and easy one to look at previously, or if people know. Archie could probably pull it up from the master plan if we need to see it.
Yeah, I can do that. All right. So we're not at Matt, correct me if I'm wrong. Folks, this is kind of the first time I've heard and seen that too, but we're not asking for decisions of any sort, but just questions about this, Matt.
Yeah, questions or feedback.
Okay.
Is this okay with people? I mean, in terms of dealing with those issues, does it seem to make sense? Do you see any problems with it?
All right. Well, I'm going to bring up I'm going to attempt to bring up the old one and put them side by side. And Alex and Natalia, if you would go ahead with your thoughts on this.
Yeah, I like it. I like the double mega window wells. They're a really cool idea. I'm curious, what are the circular things in the corners of the bedrooms? What is that supposed to represent? The donut looking?
Those are little end tables with a lamp on it.
Oh, got it.
Good question.
Yeah, Alex, do you have anything?
Yeah, I think I'm generally like it too. I'm trying to think about the positioning of the window and how that might affect the feeling of light in that big room. But I think I understand the reasons for it, so I don't think there's any. And I don't really have a strong preference about which side of the room the kitchen's on, so I think it looks good to me.
Will.
Yeah, this seems like a win-win-win all around. I like everything about it.
Right.
Rejoice and Noah.
Yeah, I think we like it a lot. Like it all looks really good.
Uh, Joan.
Overall, I think it's fine. I do have a question for Matt.
Yeah,
It looks like you maybe shrunk the space of the utility laundry mechanical room a little bit, is because you got walls running straight down the center of the basement, um, whereas before you had them staggered somewhat.
correct.
No,
So
yeah.
it's good to notice that the mechanical room wall stayed in the same place. The wall between the bedrooms moved a little bit to the right-hand side. So if you look at the dimensions on the split screen, the left-hand bedroom used to be 11 foot 4 inches wide. Now it's 12 inches, or I'm sorry, 12 feet. Used to be 11.4, now it's 12 feet. So it's moved 8 inches to the right. And that's because I'm trying to line up. There's a central beam element that runs right through there. So I'm trying to line up. The beam's going to likely, once again, potentially be dropped. If it is dropped down in, then if you build a wall underneath it, you never see it. So basically, it was a matter of lining up with the mechanical, and it just made, or I'm sorry, with the structural, made the left bedroom slightly larger, the right bedroom slightly narrower.
Okay. And it also looks like maybe the ADU family room got 8 inches larger,
Um, I I think
13.8 versus 13, but I think somewhat, but you also got the stairwell there coming down in. So I don't know, six of one, half dozen of another, maybe.
Yeah, I think that version on the left is fairly old from the original plans, and I can't remember exactly when we modified some of those dimensions in terms of structural and stuff. So I'm not sure if the ADU really changed that much in terms of width. But
Okay.
you're right, I did rearrange that. Just I'm glad you pointed out, you'll see the arrangement for the doors and the into the ADU. So there is a separate door. It could be a lock-off door for the ADU. So if you keep your laundry in the lower level and you're coming down to do laundry, etc., you're not exposed to the ADU. That was the difference between the right-hand design, which is more refined than the left-hand design.
Okay. And if you're not finishing your basement, what you'll see when you come downstairs is basically two metal posts, I think, and then what, a metal beam that will run straight contiguously across the center of the basement. Is that kind of how it'll go?
Yes, there will be a beam there. I don't know if it'll be metal or wood.
Okay.
And I need to get back to the structural engineers in terms of whether we can do it all with columns. I'm trying to do it with just columns. So all you see is columns and beams and everything's wide open. Their preliminary design actually used the wall separating the ADU and the mechanical as a built wall that was a structural bearing wall. And to me, that it may be where the way it ends up, but in terms of flexibility, I'm going to try to get back to them and say, let's just do columns and beams and not build any walls in the basement. But that's an ongoing discussion with the engineers.
Okay. So yeah, I think I like your new design a little better just because of the symmetry of it. You just got one thing running straight across the center of the basement. So it provides some flexibility. If you decide you're only going to do one bedroom, or, you're going to run whatever, something different. So, okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay, I have a couple quick questions. I want to take advantage of this for a second to show people because I didn't realize this earlier. When Matt redesigned the stairs to make the nice island in the kitchen, this is one of the things that occurred. There was a landing in both. There's two landings, and now instead of it all being flat, this is where an additional stair would be. I'm just saying it so everybody can visualize that because I didn't show that earlier, and this picture does that well. Matt, we have to have the exterior compressor on the south side. Question.
That was the strong recommendation of the mechanical engineers. One of the issues with heat pumps, of course, is the colder climates are a bigger challenge for them. And putting those over on the north side here in Colorado, You're not going to see the sunshine. It's going to make it much more difficult for them to run. Then they also have to go through a defrost cycle where they melt down the water and then the water can freeze. And they just basically said, let's put it on the south if at all possible. Now, you saw the preliminary mechanical layouts, and they literally showed two locations.
Yeah.
One on the south side of the porch and one on the north side of the porch. The reason they put it by the porch there on the north side is so that you could get some light through the porch or from the front of the building. But then it's right next to the porch. Both of them were. And my preference is not having them next to the porch. We have that solid wall on the south side of the kitchen. That would be a good place to put it. And one of the other things they said is that it would be wise to build a small roof element. So snow coming down on it, either off the roofs or just falling for protection. It's kind of like passive solar. You want to get the winter sun in there, but you want to protect it from summer sun and or from winter snow and ice. So there's a decent chance we're going to have a little kind of eyebrow roof that's sticking out on that south wall to protect that mechanical and maybe screen a little bit from the sides and things too, so that it's not, a big aesthetic issue.
It is an improvement. If we got information from the manufacturer saying, no, it's not a problem, would you reconsider?
Reconsider what?
Yeah, putting it on the other side of the house.
Possibly, but at this point, I'm going with what the mechanical engineers are telling me, which
I
makes sense
understand
based
that.
on what I know. Yeah.
And then the other thing is, and I'll be honest, the windows like that, I have concerns about that. Is it impossible to separate them? And there are also some cool things about the windows, but doing it that way, is it possible if it was the consensus to, separate them again?
I think it is possible. I think when I originally went to put them together, they basically, you could do it, but they ended up so close to each other, they
Yeah.
were almost overlapping. And then I thought about, well, wait a minute, you can, to me, it's a nicer feature to have them open and you're getting rid of the middle section. So you're actually using less material. So it might overall be a lower cost, one hole with, three sides versus two holes versus, with six sides.
I can imagine some pretty cool options with that too. Just curious. And I do want to say big kudos, thanks. If there's any way you can get rid of that beam, that's first I've heard that. That would be very neat for that basement. We're not going to finish our basement like that. And I have a real question of how many will, but that'll come out in the wash. And that's only my comments right now. I don't see it as, I could see some neat things you've done here. What if it's okay? I think I was the last, unless you have anything else, Matt. I was going to move on to the ducted versus ductless.
Yeah,
when we're
yeah,
done.
that'd be a good one because that does pertain a little bit to the beam issues.
Yeah, it does. So, okay. So, Matt, I have some picture. You'll give us the description of this. I do have some pictures of. Sorry. Well, it is all over the place now, so I am not going to do that. Some pictures that's been done away with of ducted of both a roof and a side. Do you want to you want to see those, or is that going to cause more confusion?
Well,
Other than that,
I'd like to get a feel, for people that aren't familiar, I'd like to get a feel for how many people have seen the ductless, they're oftentimes called mini splits, as far as the delivery. So if with an all-electric type heating system, we're looking at a heat pump, and the heat pump can deliver to the rooms either with ducted, which is, you're familiar if you've had forced air, where they have a centralized air handler that creates the warm air, and then it's blown through the ducts and comes up through floor registers typically. So that's relatively standard. The other option is ductless, where they're just running tubing, no ducts, and then they deliver it to each room with either the ceiling type configuration you see in the left-hand picture, or a wall-based cassette they call it, that you see in the upper right-hand picture. And those, of course, are providing heating and cooling. The one of the main benefits of the ductless with the wall mounted is you put one in every room virtually, and you have thermostatic control for each space. So that gives you a lot more kind of control. The ducted is more per level. So you have a thermostat, let's say on the main level, thermostat on the upper level. So there's a less control. But in terms of the airflow, the way they blow down, in terms of the potential noise issues, they have a condensate drain and pump that needs to run sometimes when it's creating condensation. The little pumps have to run to get rid of the moisture, so that the feedback I hear, and interesting, our mechanical engineer had one in his office, and the two guys that shared the office vied for not sitting underneath the ductless one because it was blowing down on them. And the engineers kind of say, yeah, you can end up with some clicking noises and things that some homeowners find annoying. So those are I will admit, I don't have experience with these. I don't live with them. I haven't put them in houses before. Some of you may have, but we'd love to get some feedback in terms of your preferences, so we know kind of which way to go with the mechanical engineers. And other people may have more knowledge than I that can chip in.
So, and I'm going to give a little bit more. Almost everyone here, I suspect, is familiar with forced air. You've had registers in your house, either high or low, and air's pushed through in the room. I don't know if anyone's had experience with mini splits or ductless. This is the picture on. So most rooms would have one of these. I'm sorry I can't get it over there more, but that's the best I could do for that one. And I know I saw the earlier mechanical. I'm gonna give you one example. You would have very early design 4 registers for a ducted system in your living, dining, kitchen. At the moment, and they may change this, you would have one of these in the same area, which was ostensibly put right here, very early design. So that could change, but you got to have it somewhere in there. And this is super crude. I apologize for that, folks, but it's the best I could do. Oh my goodness, there are days when it doesn't do. So you would have that same unit, somewhere in here. Sorry, I'm not a great artist for that. So, and then whereas you had ductless, you'd have them on the floor, underneath the couch, wherever the case may be, which you're probably used to. Hopefully that gives some idea. Since we're running close to time, I'm going to go around to everyone. And if you have questions, please ask those. And then give us your opinion of ducted versus ductless. The ductless would probably be a little cheaper for us. You would be able to individually control rooms, I believe. That's all I can think of. So, Will, why don't you start off? Do you have any questions? Yeah,
Archie,
go ahead.
Could we just start with general clarifying questions? I think this is a pretty complex topic. So
okay, good. Fair enough. That's a good idea.
If there's any clarifying questions, let's get those before we get opinions.
Okay. Will, what are your questions?
Yeah, I guess I just want to have the clearest understanding I can of the trade-offs. It sounds like one of the we understand about individual room control. We understand about the noise. I've had one of these units in my dad's little farmhouse, and that drain line has gotten clogged several times with like bugs and detritus. Then it backs up and started dripping into his living room. And the guy came in and just put forced air through that drip line and was like, "You're good now." And I was like, "Until it clogs again, like, I mean, you didn't solve the problem." Like, so, I have that experience in my background. But I'm just curious, like, if we could just kind of see this side by side of what the trade-offs are, if anyone has any comments on that.
We don't have that prepared. it would have to be verbally, or we could come
Yeah,
back with that.
just any other
Well-
things that we haven't considered yet, maybe.
Well, I think you bring up an interesting one, and thank you for that. In terms of kind of the ongoing maintenance, I don't know in terms of these units, but you just gave a good example of some maintenance, how these things can get clogged up. And the point is, you have multiple units, in one in each room, basically.
Exactly.
There's a lot more units that can break or need to be maintained or get clogged or have issues, that kind of thing. With the ducted, you basically have one and at most two units, more like a furnace. So there's a big unit down in the basement. We may end up with an upper one, but I'm not sure. The idea is one is one centralized unit, and then it's all ducted from there. The other one is all these individual units hanging on the wall. So in terms of things like maintenance and repair, you can see you're going to have 1 versus 6 or something like that. And that is a very important point in terms of ongoing potential expense.
I can also give you that space you're looking at on the left. Just imagine whatever air it takes to cool that, all of it would have to go through that unit that I've crudely drawn in the wall. So you got to imagine about the noise to that, unless they change, put more of them in there. Another advantage of the ductless is it's much easier for Matt and where he's going to run all the ducted lines, because that's not an easy task.
Yeah.
Upstairs, so you don't see those, and we've all seen those in our houses, but that's quite the challenge. The more you look at how you got to run those lines. Natalia, you have your hand up.
Yes. So one element that I did want to consider is living out here in Colorado, like when you do have the forced air, one thing we have to like deal with is dry noses, dry everything, hawking every stuff up every morning when you wake up all winter, putting humidifiers in the room. And then so that's one plus they might want to consider with ductless. And then we haven't had much experience. We did have one winter where we lived with a unit that was ductless, and we thought it worked really great. I kind of loved that it kind of mitigated. That's when I noticed it was mitigating the drying you out stuff, because it just warms you a little bit more than the air, or at least that was my understanding of how it worked. Is that true?
I'm not familiar with the ductless impacts on humidity. I do know in terms of basic forced air units, the standard gas forced air that's been typical in Colorado for many years, the idea of having a central appliance actually allows you to add a humidifier, because you can do it right down at the unit itself. It's the same with filtration. I don't know how the filters, if there's any kind of air filters in the ductless, there probably are. But if so, then you'd have to go around and change out 6 different air filters. If it's a centralized appliance like a furnace, you have one filter unit to either change or maintain. And like I said, you can add on a humidifier, which goes right into the main supply plenum. And so if you, and that's been an option or an add-on I've seen numerous people do if they have dry air issues. So I know that's doable in the ducted. I'm not as familiar with what happens with the ductless.
Also, the HRV or ERV, particularly the ERV, are able to deal with humidity issues, and that will be an SRT issue. I'm almost sure we'll be addressing humidity issues. Noah and Rejoice, would you care to ask any questions?
No, I don't think. I think we're both just thinking about it. We don't have any specific questions at this
Okay.
point.
Alex, I don't think I got to you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know much about these HVAC systems, so it's hard for me to know what questions I should be asking. But I guess one question is, how does it change sort of the way that, heat is distributed across a room, or how that would feel? I guess that's one thing that I would be curious about. And the other is, kind of related to that is the positioning of these units. One thing so I mentioned we were in one house where they had some kind of unit above the bed, and I found that was both nice, but also like sometimes almost too hot. Like that part of the room got warmer. So I'm kind of curious how that, like how you think about the positioning of the ductless units and how that works.
Can I point out something, Matt?
Yeah.
This ceiling unit up in the upper right, the center part of that is the return, and these outside slats force the air sideways. So that addresses somewhat how it moves the air. But common sense also tells us that if we have X number of registers that are really far apart, it's going to distribute the air more widely than one of these units, like this one.
Yeah,
And
so to add to that, Archie, the basics, as I understand it, is the ductless unit is just circulating the air in the space. So it's both blowing it out and sucking it back in. And so that tends to keep it more concentrated so that if you do have it like over a bed, that space, and they're also mounted up high. So they're either in the ceiling or high on the wall. Okay. So typically you're going to have a more concentrated space and it's going to be blowing down on you. The ducted comes up through the floor. So it's circulating that way, and there are separate return registers. So it doesn't supply and return in the same place. It supplies through the floor, and then the returns are in the walls, usually the opposite wall in a room. So they're trying to create a circulation pattern where it comes in one location. Typically, the registers are over near the windows so that the warm air comes up across the coolest surface, which is the glass, and then it gets pulled across the room, and the return would be over on the interior wall. So on that left-hand picture, you'd have the registers over on the right-hand under the windows, and the return would be over on that left-hand wall someplace. And the return is just a grate. It's, you've probably seen them. It's just a surface grill that's over a return duct that takes the air all the way back to the central air handler in the basement, and then it comes back out and around again.
I want to make everyone, I am aware we're almost 15 minutes over, but I think Joan's our last questioner for this issue, and this is our last issue. So if you can bear with me for just a couple more minutes, we're very close to done. Joan, questions?
Yeah, just a couple of questions for Matt. I guess the ductless provides more variability of control room by room. How would you get variability of control with a ducted system? Do you just have to close a vent in a room, or?
It's a good question, and yes, you could individually, and anybody that's had forced air probably knows you can go to the registers and they have their own little dial, so you can open them all the way or close them up. So that gives you a certain small amount of control. The mechanical engineers are also talking about the different levels. So they're looking at the main level and the upper level being on separate thermostats, because as I said, with stratification, you tend to get it warmer on the upper level than you do on the main. And they do that through what they call zone dampers. So that is basically a duct control or a damper control that would control the ducts to those two different levels, and those controls are hooked to thermostats. So you would have a main level thermostat for heating and cooling and an upper level heating or thermostat for heating and cooling.
Okay, so there is a little bit more, well, there is some level of control with the ducted level by level.
Correct. Level by level, but not room by room.
Got it. Okay, thanks for that clarification.
You're welcome.
Is that it, John? Just one thing. I went on the solar homes tour recently, and I've been interviewing builders lately and visiting different job sites. And every net zero home that I've seen is all with ductless systems. My sample size is not huge, but I have a little concern. I think it's good to gather feedback from everybody here, but I think it's such a complex issue around so many different mechanical elements that, um, you know, I want to just say I think it's your input I think is going to be a part of the decision. Compared to some things like do you want a linen closet or not? It's like your input is like pretty much 100% of the decision. But in this case, I would think it'd be a kind of a small part of the decision because there's so much complex mechanical stuff that's part of the bigger decision that Matt's going to have to make with the mechanical engineers. So I just want to put that caveat out there that I think that we're just hearing people's comments. I think most of us, me included, especially, are pretty ignorant about how all the trade-offs, the pros and cons of all these. And so, it's going to be a bigger decision than I think just, what we hear this morning. If
Okay, I think
that's
everybody's got it. I admit I am strongly biased against ductless for a variety of reasons. I'm not going to go into it now. I'll listen. I am also very interested in net zero. So ultimately, but I do have a real bias against the ductless. That is it, though. I don't think, Mac, I don't think we need to do any more with the duct or ductless at this time. I don't.
Do we want feedback?
Yeah, we pretty much just got questions, not feedback so far.
Well, do you want, I didn't know if you wanted to go that far, but we can do that certainly. So let's do one last round of feedback and then we'll do a quick review of the meeting and we're done. Joan, why don't you start off with the feedback?
And let me
Yeah,
I would think one thing that'd be important to feedback is not necessarily if you think ducted or ductless, but maybe if there's certain decision criteria that are important to you. Like I want a lot of variability in control, or I don't like those big things on the wall. That part of it is ugly. Or if there's certain elements that are important to you, not necessarily, just binary, ductless or ducted, but what elements are important to consider as we make this.
okay. For me, they're fairly equal though, the ability to control, but also the aesthetics. I personally don't like the look of the ductless units in every room with a big box up on the wall. I think it's uglier. But obviously I've got control questions as well and net zero questions. So I don't know if that helped you any at all.
Noah and Rejoice.
I think I would kind of echo what Joan was just saying. I don't particularly like those units on the walls. That other version where it's embedded, I think I'm more open to. The control, like room by room control, doesn't seem super important to me, especially if there's, level control with a ducted version. And then just the other issue is cost. Like if one of them ends up being substantially less expensive than the other, that would, I think, be an important factor for us.
Rejoice.
For duct heating and cooling, I like the being able to control by level. So definitely want that dual thermostat. And then for the ductless, I would prefer to do the ceiling units rather than the large wall units.
Matt can comment, but the ceiling units can be difficult because of joist. So, but does not mean they're not possible. It just means that they can be a bit of a challenge at times. Will.
Yeah, I'm with you, Archie. I'm not a big fan of the ductless system. I want the fewest points of failure in these systems possible. I know it's a lot of work to get the ducting handled, but that's what we have this brilliant Matt guy around for. So yeah, and with my experience on that, and yeah, and the aesthetics, obviously, I think having these big plastic doohickeys in my favorite. I think there could be something kind of tasteful to having the vents in the floor. So yeah, that's my position.
Thanks, Alex and Natalia.
I know I really liked what Max said. I feel like this issue is something that's complicated. I don't have a whole handle on it, so I'll start there. I think I prioritize energy efficiency and cost a little, and maybe some degree the control across the house over the aesthetics of the units. I don't mind them quite as much. But again, I think I either need to learn more to have a stronger opinion, or leave this in the hands of you guys to decide.
Natalia.
Yeah, same. I wrote in the chat, I would love for this decision to be taken out of my hands. I think, yeah, my priorities are also just energy efficiency and cost. And yeah.
Mine are aesthetics. They do not distribute air in the same manner, and almost, I won't say it's impossible, but they're going to be likely to be louder. And in order to move the air, they've got to force more out, which means if you're right by it, you're going to feel that more. Um, and I'm just strongly biased against them. I don't ever plan on selling this house. I do think, at least in today's world, if I was in Europe, it would be different. When people come in and see them, if you are ever going to sell your house, you're at a slight disadvantage too. And then also, there's just a lot more units. I'd much rather have one. I think that's it. Mac, was that, and Matt, was that sufficient, helpful at all?
Yes, that was helpful.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
We covered an enormous amount of stuff, and man, I thank everybody for today. I want to remind you that we welcome any other comments after you think about this. You'll have a chance to look at some of it that I've sent you, and if you want, oh hey, yeah, I wanted to see this, I'm happy to send it. I will post this meeting, if not today, early tomorrow morning. Got to run out in just a minute. And let us do one final round of any comments on the meeting.
Well,
Mac, why don't you start?
Okay, well, just, what you just said, you welcome any other comments that people have to send in. That's by Sunday, right? That's the deadline.
Yes, that's correct. Sunday night, no later than Sunday night, 20 October.
Right, because
Did I not? I'm sorry, I thought I said the date, but yeah.
Yeah, you did at the beginning of the meeting, but I just wanted to reinforce that
Yep, correct.
that we're moving on forward. No, I thought it was a great meeting. I appreciate everybody's patience. And Archie, you did a fabulous job of facilitating and lining everything up and presenting it, and getting the drawings up and showing, and of course, Matt, you did a fabulous job in the weeks before, creating improvements to the plan overall. So I'm very pleased.
Joan.
A lot of material. Great job keeping it moving, and I think a lot of stuff for us to, as home buyers, to absorb and think about. So well organized and moved very efficiently. Thank you.
Noah and Rejoice.
Yeah, I'll echo those same points. It was a lot of material to cover, but it was very well done, and yeah, it felt fine.
Will.
We're killing it. This is a great meeting. Appreciate you, Archie. Yeah, I obviously Ponderosa's we got to be the best team, surely.
I'm not going to touch that one, but yeah, thank you. Natalia.
Yeah, thought it went great. And thank you so much, Matt, for your designs. I'm really excited to move in. And thank you, Archie, for all the work and prep. And yeah, thought it went smooth.
Alex.
Did alter what everybody else said. Really appreciate the meeting. Really appreciate Matt's work on being creative and thinking about some of the feedback that was given last time. Two pieces of feedback. One is, I know this is happening at the last minute, but if there's any possibility of having more time in the future to look at materials, that would definitely be helpful. I know there's probably good reasons why that didn't happen, but definitely that would help. And the other is, I've missed a couple of meetings, so maybe I've just missed this, but it'd be helpful for me to hear at some point kind of more just updates about thinking of the timeline overall for the project and where we're at and where things stand. And so that would just be nice to get a few minutes of that maybe at these meetings, so we hear updates about that.
So I think I went through everybody. Matt.
Yeah, once again, kudos to Archie. I think you all realize, but we get to see behind the scenes the scramble right up to the last minute with all the different things he's trying to organize, and he did an awesome job to do that. To be able to get through this much material in this much time, I think Claire said it earlier that, this is almost unheard of in the annals of co-housing to be able to cover it so well, to get such thoughtful feedback and give us good guidance. So I agree with Will. You totally killed it. So great job, everybody.
Alex, there is no excuse. I apologize. Um, it was hard, and we will attempt to do better because I understand what you're saying. However, I also want to say, Mac, can you say anything about where we are with the builder? Because I think it's good news, and people should be encouraged. There are other things uh, going on that I know. Mac is working very hard to see dirt be moved. Um, I mean, you want any update at all as far as, hey, we're making progress?
Yeah, well, I mean, in terms of a little quick development update, I mean, I'm completely committed to breaking ground in the spring still. That has not changed. The biggest, issue around that is getting enough home buyers. There's a lot of other important pieces of work that need to be done, like this design work, but those are more in our control and financing and whatnot. Hiring a builder. I mean, those things can all happen if we exert effort, but the finding enough home buyers, you exert effort, maybe you get them or not. So that's huge still. In terms of, the main focus of my work this past week or two has been hiring a builder. I started talking to about a dozen of them. That list is now down to two. And there's one that's our primary candidate. And they specialize in, I mean, their real passion is in green building, but they've also done, I mean, there's a lot of people that are really passionate about green building, but they just do one-off custom homes or two-off custom homes, just small numbers of homes per year. And so so this builder that is kind of our top candidate right now is passionate about green building, but also, they do dozens of units a year. So our project is this within the scale of projects that they've done in the past, which is very, very important because I don't want any of our professionals that we hire to learn how to do our type of project on our project. I want them to get their experience before they show up on our project and be good at it already. So I'm hoping to schedule an interview early next week. Before I mean that is being scheduled right now. Hopefully at the end of the day I'll get all the feedback and we'll be able to schedule that. If not, we'll do the interview later. Matt leaves for Japan for a few weeks in the middle of next week, so we're trying to crunch some pieces in here before that happens. But other than that, I mean, I don't see any issues. I mean, we've already got our county approvals, which is huge. I've got a preliminary plan for construction financing. I got a lot of details to work out there. But things are moving forward. And the only caveat to breaking ground in the spring is getting enough home buyers. And if that doesn't happen, we'll have to scramble and figure out a plan B. But I am fully expecting that we will be breaking ground in the spring. And I should mention that also, we shot to break ground in the spring when we did phase one, and we broke ground at the very end of July. So, that kind of delay is possible, but I'm hoping not, because we're getting an earlier start on phase two. We didn't get our preliminary plat approval on phase one until like right now, like sometime October, November.